Hello, everyone. Have you ever wondered how a nation that began as a group of small colonies on the edge of North America grew into one of the most powerful countries in the world? Today, we'll explore the fascinating history of the United States, from early European settlement to independence to global superpower. This is the story of struggle, conflict, resilience, and transformation. The arrival of Europeans. The story of America begins long before the United States existed. Indigenous peoples had lived across the continent for thousands of years, building rich cultures and societies. But in 1492, Christopher Columbus's voyage opened the door for European colonization. Spain, France, and the Netherlands claimed territories, but it was England that would leave the deepest mark on what became the U.S. In 1607, the English founded Jamestown, Virginia, the first permanent English settlement in North America. A decade later, religious separatists known as the Pilgrims landed in Massachusetts and established Plymouth Colony. Their survival and alliance with Native Americans gave birth to the Thanksgiving tradition. The 13 colonies. Over the next century, England established 13 colonies along the Atlantic coast. Each colony developed differently. Some were centers of trade, others focused on farming or religious freedom. But by the mid-1700s, tensions grew between colonists and the British Crown. Heavy taxes like the Stamp Act and Sugar Act angered settlers who had no representation in Parliament. The phrase "no taxation without representation" became their battle cry. The road to independence resentment exploded in events like the Boston Tea Party of 1773, where colonists dumped British tea into the harbor. Britain cracked down, sending troops and enacting harsh laws. By 1775, war broke out between British soldiers and colonial militias. Leaders like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin rose to guide the revolution. On July 4, 1776, the colonies formally declared independence with the Declaration of Independence, which boldly stated that all men are created equal, with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Birth of a new nation. The Revolutionary War raged until 1783, when Britain finally recognized American independence through the Treaty of Paris. A new nation was born, the United States of America. In 1787, leaders gathered to draft the U.S. Constitution, creating a system of checks and balances that still governs today. 2 years later, George Washington was inaugurated as the first president, setting traditions for future leaders. Expansion across the continent. In its early years, the U.S. was just a cluster of states on the Atlantic, but the desire for land and opportunity drove expansion westward. In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase doubled the nation's size. In 1845, Texas entered the Union. The Mexican-American War soon followed, adding California, Arizona, New Mexico, and more. In 1867, America purchased Alaska from Russia. By 1898, Hawaii was annexed. This expansion was driven by the idea of manifest destiny, the belief that Americans were destined to settle the entire continent. The Civil War. Yet expansion also brought division, especially over slavery. The South depended on enslaved labor, while the North moved toward industry and opposed slavery's spread. When Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, Southern states seceded, forming the Confederacy. The result was the Civil War, 1861 to 1865, the bloodiest conflict in U.S. history. Lincoln's leadership and the Union's strength eventually prevailed. The Emancipation Proclamation declared enslaved people free, and in 1865 the Union was preserved. But the wounds of war and racial inequality would linger for generations. Reconstruction and industrial growth. After the war, the U.S. entered Reconstruction, trying to rebuild the South and integrate formerly enslaved people into society. But progress was slow, and discrimination remained entrenched. Meanwhile, the late 1800s saw massive industrial growth. Railroads connected the continent, steel and oil industries boomed, and new inventions transformed daily life. Cities expanded as millions of immigrants arrived from Europe, fueling the workforce and enriching America's cultural diversity. The early 20th century and world wars. In the early 1900s, the U.S. emerged as a rising global power. During World War I, 1917 to 1918, American troops helped secure victory for the Allies. But soon after came the Great Depression of the 1930s, when the stock market crashed and millions lost their jobs. Then in 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, bringing the U.S. into World War II. Under President Franklin D. Roosevelt, America became the arsenal of democracy, producing weapons and supplies that helped defeat both Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. By 1945, the U.S. had emerged as one of the world's two superpowers. The Cold War era. From 1947 to 1991, the U.S. faced off against the Soviet Union in the Cold War. This was a clash of ideologies, democracy and capitalism versus communism. Though the superpowers never fought directly, proxy wars erupted, including the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Meanwhile, the space race symbolized their rivalry. In 1969, the U.S. triumphed when astronaut Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. At home, the 1950s and 1960s saw the civil rights movement, with leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. fighting to end segregation and racial injustice. Their efforts reshaped American society forever. Modern America. By the late 20th century, America stood as the dominant global power. It played key roles in the Gulf War, international diplomacy, and global trade. But challenges continued. On September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks on New York and Washington, D.C. shocked the nation, leading to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Today, America's influence can be felt everywhere, from the smartphones we hold, to the movies we watch, to the policies that shape global politics. And whether one sees the United States as a beacon of hope or a nation still struggling with its flaws, there is no denying its impact on the modern world. So as we look back at the journey of the United States, we are reminded of the power of ideas, of determination, and of the human spirit to shape history. The story of America is not finished. In fact, it is still being written, day by day, decision by decision, generation by generation. And that is why history matters. Because to understand where we are going, we must first understand where we came from. If you found this journey through history fascinating, I invite you to stay with us for more stories like this. Don't forget to press like, share your thoughts in the comments, and most importantly, hit the subscribe button so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Together, let's keep exploring the past, learning from it, and shaping a better future. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay curious and stay inspired.